They winning, but to me it's just a blowout. Ay, every week we putting numbers on the board, we show out. Ay, all it took was just a bit of patience with the grind. You can never hold it back.
Welcome back to Drive the Lane on the Field of 68, presented by Bet Rivers. Get your Big Ten tournament odds in. Get your Players Championship odds in. And let's talk about the Big Ten tournament and the awards that Buckeyes won. We're going to jump right to it. Joey, we have E.J. Liddell, first team Big Ten, first team defense Big Ten, and Malachi Branham, because of us, freshman of the year. What'd you think of the awards? Anyone left off, in your opinion?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm just happy, Andrew, that we don't have to riot, because that was the claim we were making is we will riot if Malachi doesn't win Big Ten of the year. And to be honest, I thought there's no way he was going to win it just based on not him, but us as a team. Before it was like, the reason why Malachi Branham should be the freshman of the year is because he is the second best player on a team competing for a Big Ten championship. Well, fast forward 2 weeks after we said that, and we've lost 3 of 4, and we didn't even get a first a double bye. So, and Bryce McGowan's freaking torched us too. So when you couple all that together, I was like, well, I don't think Malachi's going to win. But boom, he wins. Awesome. I don't think you can really have too much of a gripe with that. In terms of all the other, there's just...
Hold on, you're missing a key part about him winning freshman of the year. We got to announce it, technically.
Oh, yeah, that was so. I'm in the middle of me and Andrew have real jobs, so we're not on Twitter all the time and see everything. But I get a call from Andrew in the middle of the day around lunchtime when the awards were announced, and I was like, well, what could this possibly be about? And he called me and said, dude, check Ohio State's Instagram. And I was like, okay, like they announced the awards. What do you mean? He's like, well, swipe over. I swiped over, and then it's me and Andrew saying, who's the best freshman in the Big Ten? And he goes, Malachi Branham. And that's how they announced the Big Ten freshman of the year being Malachi. That's just, so goofy.
Well, also, I think, obviously Bryce McGowan's had an unbelievable year. If you're just looking at in the Big Ten, it really, really helps Malachi, which was huge for him winning Big Ten freshman of the year, which was also probably kind of why EJ didn't win, player of the year, because Big Ten, like before we got to Big Ten, it was like, this is the Big Ten player of the year. And then of course, Wisconsin wins. Whoa, I'll get to that. But so, yeah, but back to your snubs.
Yeah. I really have to look at the list again, and get really in depth. So I'm going to pull it up. So give me 1 second. On the top of my mind, wherever Trent Frazier is, he was snubbed because I think he is the most important guy on Illinois. I think he's the best player in Illinois, which turned out to be one of, if not the best teams in the Big Ten. I know he wasn't on the first team. I don't know if he should be on the first team. But in my opinion, he was snubbed regardless. I know he won. He was on the all defense team, which, obviously that's a given. Quickly, I'll go through the first team, no brainer. That's exactly how I would vote it. EJ, Jaden Ivey, Keegan Murray, Johnny Davis, Kofi Cockburn, the walking STD, TBT. Probably don't need to say that, but Kofi Cockburn being unanimous along with Keegan Murray, and somehow Johnny Davis by the media wasn't voted unanimous, which is hilarious, even though he won Player of the Year. Nothing to talk about there. That's a given.
I think the one thing to talk about is that I texted you this earlier. Like, I think it's arguably the best all-conference team, maybe ever, but definitely the best since the team was Trey Burke, Tim Hardaway, Oladipo, Zeller, and Deshaun Thomas. And even that team, they have 4 guys who are still in the NBA, but this is like 3 lottery picks for sure, probably another first rounder, and then another guy in Kofi who, I think there is a spot.
Dominant player ever.
Right. I think there's a spot for him in the NBA. You look at a team like the Bulls that are begging. We were begging for a guy like Kofi to be coming off the bench for the Bulls, and they got Tristan Thompson, so it worked out. But I think we're going to look in 5 years, and all 5 of these guys will still be playing in the NBA. That is my opinion, which is wild.
Yeah. It is the best Big Ten team that I can remember, and it's one of the best I mean, like Johnny Davis was unbelievable. Like,
Yeah.
I think about the only guy I can think of off the top of my head that was Frank Kaminsky, National Player of the Year also. Denzel Valentine, National Player of the Year also. Besides them, Johnny Davis he's going to be a first team All-American. He should, I don't know if he should be the National Player of the Year, but he is 1B if he doesn't win to Shigwe. So, yeah, I agree with you. That first team is unbelievable. The second and third teams, we don't really need to go into them, I don't think, right?
We'll be here all day.
Exactly. So the all defense team, awesome. Jamari Wheeler should be on there. That's no. The all defense team is good. The freshman team is interesting, just because there aren't a ton of great freshmen this year. Like Max Christie averaged under 10 points a game, but definitely belongs on there. Malachi obviously winning it. Bryce McCowan's obviously being incredible. Musa Diabate was unbelievable down the stretch. He missed a game because he threw a punch at a guy, yet he's still on the team, so good for him. And then Chucky Hepburn, I love him being on the team. People were mad that he was on there and not Houston from Michigan, Caleb Houston. But Chucky Hepburn was starting point guard on the Big Ten, team of the team that won the Big Ten. So like,
how much does that game winner help him? Like the voting is so fresh.
A ton, but he also was very, very good down the stretch. His numbers just weren't as good as the other guys, but like, whatever. Like winning matters. Winning matters.
Yeah, you're so right about down the stretch too, because I think people were like, "Look, Malachi." Like I know, not going back to that, but it's like his last 7-8 games. Like that's where he won Big Ten Freshman of the Year.
Totally, and he averaged a ton of points a game in the Big Ten, like you said. Shot 52% in the Big Ten. As a guy, the secondary shot maker on the team and sometimes primary, shooting 52% is unbelievable. And the shots he's taken, right? He's not shooting.
Absolutely.
He's not like Kofi. He's not dunking every time.
Yeah.
So he's unbelievable. The only other thing to mention is Coach of the Year. I think 4 guys had an argument for it. But how can you not give it to the guy that was predicted to finish 10th in the league and ended up winning it? It's just so Greg Gard, very deserving. I would say the second most deserving guy is Brad Underwood, lost his whole staff, and then as well as losing a first-team All-American, and then still coming back and winning the first Big Ten title since 04-05 for them. I think that's great. And obviously arguments can be made for Fran McCaffrey. They're playing the best basketball of just about any team in the Big Ten. And then obviously Steve Peichel, they got a double bye. 2 years ago, they were last place. Or 3 years ago, they were last place, and now they have a double bye. That is insane.
I was thinking about this because, I'm always thinking about, like, what am I going to say if someone says, who's the sleeper team to win the Big Ten tournament? Who's the sleeper team to make some noise in March Madness? And it's like Rutgers is the pick, but, like, are you a sleeper if you have a double bye and you beat?
No, they're not.
Like, to the outside fan looking in who's maybe just now tuning in or maybe really only cares about conference tournaments and March Madness, you could like look really smart if you say Rutgers is a sleeper team and maybe people don't pay attention. They're like, oh, wow, great call. They made it to the quarterfinals.
Yeah, what people don't understand is Rutgers is squarely on the bubble. They'll get in. They're on the right side of the bubble, but they're squarely on the bubble. But they have a double bye in the best conference tournament in America. The deepest league in America. They have a double bye, yet they're on the bubble because of some non-conference losses, which is just hilarious. You're exactly right. Like Rutgers will be a 10 seed in the NCAA tournament, but they're, a top 4 team in the best conference in America. It's remarkable. So, shout out to Peichel. That dude is a legend. Shout out to Ohio State for spearheading their resurgence at the end of the year with that comeback win. And shout out to whoever's calling you on the phone. That just scared the shit out of me. So yeah, Big Ten awards, like shout out to EJ Liddell, shout out to Malachi. Malachi was 3rd team also. That's awesome. He's the first freshman to be to make any all conference team since D'Angelo, I think. So pretty cool. Not to be taken lightly. Before we kind of move on to the tournament, do you want to give your Andrew Zolden percentage on is Malachi Branham going to the NBA?
There really hasn't been a day since I said Malachi Branham's going to the NBA that I've like kind of pulled off of it. I will say this though, like the mock draft people who are really into mock drafting, like the ones who their job is like mock draft analyst or draft analyst, not like their job. What?
Shout out Jeremy Wu.
Shout out Jeremy Wu, but like not the people who their job is like covers the NBA or covers college basketball and just puts together a list. What I'm trying to say is the people who are super focused on the draft have him in the top 25. The people who are the big name, looking for the big names of college basketball, reading other mock drafts, stuff like that. The ones that get updated, maybe every 10 days, some of them don't even have him in the first round. So I think he is going to go to the NBA, but I think part of the reason is because, like, who knows what the team is going to look like next year. Obviously, the team is going to run through him no matter who is on the team next year. But, like, just his usage would just going to be crazy next year. Obviously, he could shoot into, maybe the top 10 if he has an unbelievable year. But I also think there will be a GM out there that at like 24 is like maybe it's a cool, trendy team. Like maybe it's like a Bulls type team that at 24 that's like, if you're there, we're taking you. And like, I mean, obviously different for me and you from a guy who, has an actual future in the NBA. But like, if someone said that to me, we're like, okay, I'm going to go play on the Bulls.
Yeah. I mean, like, is he going to get drafted? If he goes, of course, like it's probably going to be at the end of the first round. It's just a matter of like, what's important to him, right? Like his stock will not drop by him coming back. Like there's no way, like think about Jaden Ivey, right? Like he's the perfect example. We talked about him before. Jaden Ivey was a late first round pick who comes back and turns into a lottery pick. And not only a lottery pick, was a preseason Big Ten Player of the Year, was a preseason All-American, I think that shit matters to guys. Like coming back and like being that dude, like that's important. Like not everybody gets to experience that. He grew up in Columbus. I think that matters. It'll be interesting. It just depends on how in a hurry he is, right? Is he in a real rush to make it to the NBA? Some guys aren't.
Right.
If EJ was in a rush, he'd be gone. But he wasn't. Cementing his legacy was important. And granted, EJ 100% raised his stock. And I think that EJ is a good example of what can happen to Malachi. Just like EJ went from a 45 to now a 25 pick, Malachi could go from a 25 to a 10, and I think that matters. I put it at like 70% he's gone, 30%.
I agree. I think a good Big Ten tournament game, like literally if he has one good game in the Big Ten.
It's a good primetime game, whether it's in the Big Ten tournament, NCAA tournament. If we win like if we win over 3.5 games from now through the end of March, he's gone.
Well, the reason being because they're not winning over 3.5 games without him being a huge contributor. Like even the game against Michigan State, like he still finished with close to 20. Like the other guys were the story. Like Joey Brunk was the story. Jamari Wheeler was the story. We didn't even really talk about that game that much, but those guys were the story. And then, Malachi actually finished with 16, 18, so it's like, even if everyone plays their best game, he's still going to get his, but I will ask you this about Jaden Ivey. Jaden Ivey comes back this year and they don't have Edey, they don't have Williams, and they kind of stink and they're not a tournament team, let's say. Is he still projected in a lottery? I mean, a guard is so different. You need your assists from other guys on the team.
The way that Jaden Ivey plays, like it didn't really matter. Like he's just a menace in transition. He doesn't not an unbelievable passer. Kind of turns the ball over a ton. He's not incredible on defense. I really don't think it mattered who was around him. It did help that the team was better, more eyeballs on him.
You hope if you're Malachi, you hope that the Johnny Davises and the Keegan Murrays of the world don't show up next year if you come back.
Those guys are long gone. But yeah.
No, I'm saying not those guys. I'm saying like guys who are not even in the 2-round mocks going into the season, just all of a sudden are all Big Ten first team. And then you're right back in the 20 to 25 range and you came back a year.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah.
I don't want to be right so badly if you can't tell.
I know. No, I can tell. First of all, he's such an awesome guy with clearly a great head on his shoulders that whatever decision he makes, I will not for a second argue with it. I won't. It will make complete sense. I'll be all for it. Obviously, we'll support him no matter what, like just like we did with Dwayne. But like, yeah, it's a good problem to have. It's very bittersweet as a Buckeye fan, and it's awesome for him because either he goes and he becomes a bajillionaire and starts his successful NBA career, or he comes back and he's the man leading scorer on a top tier team in the country and Big Ten team. I mean, like, we're going to have Justice Suing. We're going to have a great point guard, whether it's Bruce Thornton or whether it's a transfer. We're going to have some great big guys. Like, we're going to have a really good team. So it'll be interesting. But let's talk some bracket, shall we?
Yeah, let's talk some bracket. Great little transition there. So Ohio State is slotted in at the 6th seed. First thing I'm going to ask you, Joey, they play the winner of Minnesota Penn State. Team like Michigan State plays the 10 seed Maryland. Michigan, Indiana, 8-9. I'm talking more about Michigan State. Would you rather be locked in and know your opponent, but maybe they're a little better? And again, Big Ten tournament, a little better doesn't really mean anything when you're talking 11, 12, 13, 14. Like, these teams are kind of all near each other. Or do you like that the team you're playing has to play an extra game?
I think I like that my team, that it's crazy because it's like pick your poison, right? Rest versus rust, kind of. Because like people consider like playing one of those lower seeded teams instead of having your matchup set, like you're saying, like a disadvantage, because the team that wins has played on the court, has played on the rims, has shot on the rims, like it has some momentum. They're feeling good. Like, who cares how bad they are?
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, when you're playing a team already, like the coaches have way more time to prepare. So you couple that together, and you would think on the outside, like, you want to have your matchup set, even if it's a little better, especially this year. Like, I would rather play a Michigan State versus a Nebraska if it was set right now, because no one's playing better than Nebraska. Granted, luckily for us, we don't have to play Nebraska if Nebraska wins, right? We play Minnesota, who we are a really bad matchup for, and then Penn State, who I hate them with all my heart, and they always have a chance against Ohio State. So all that to say, sitting here right now in this moment, I would rather have the matchup be set up just because the coaches can prepare, and both teams have never played on the court before. But you ask me tomorrow, and I might say, you know what, it wouldn't be bad to play the 14th ranked team in the conference who hasn't won a game since June of last year. So right now I'd like to have the matchup set. That's how I feel. But it's just a great question.
And these games are happening tonight. So, Joey, who's your pick? I'll give you mine. Nebraska, Northwestern, and then Minnesota, Penn State.
Poor Northwestern having to play Nebraska. I mean, I don't see Nebraska losing just because they're just hot. They just almost swept the weekly awards last week. They won freshman and player of the week last week, which good for them. But no one's literally, they're like the best team in the country right now. Like, it's hilarious. So I'll take Nebraska in that game. I think we agree there. And then Minnesota's better, but like, we're going to play Penn State because that's just how it works. Like, that Holtman sees Penn State and he goes, I don't want to play Penn State. I don't care if there are a bunch of fourth graders on that team. Just those colors and that uniform just makes them hard to beat. So because that's how life and how sports work, we're going to play Penn State. It's like, it's not up to who's a better team. It's the fact that the winner plays Ohio State. Therefore, it'll be Penn State.
All right, so let's move forward to the next round, which is going to be on Thursday, March 10th, which you will be in attendance for. All the games?
Fingers crossed. I need Kyle Young to come through. I'm actually texting him right now. I need him to come through because some other stuff has happened. So shout out Kyle. If you guys see me on Thursday, it's because of Kyle.
All right, so hoping you're there. I have guaranteed a trip to Indy if Ohio State's in the championship, so I have guaranteed not going to Indy.
Whoa, not so fast.
Reverse psychology. But let's look at those games. Indiana, Michigan. I think Michigan, March, we know what's going to happen. There's a pretty good chance they're going to be, in the quarterfinals, if not the semifinals, because that's just what happens with Michigan in the Big Ten tournament in March. I think Michigan beats Indiana. And then Iowa and Nebraska, who you got there? That's a fun one.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of piggyback off you, Indiana needs to win to make it in the NCAA tournament. And we both have so many Indiana fans.
Doesn't Michigan kind of need to win also?
I think they're in. Juwan Howard is going to be coaching, and he's a worse coach than Phil Martelli. So, like, that's interesting dynamic to look at. I'm going to take Michigan because I just kind of want to see Indiana fans suffer a little bit more. That's what my heart wants, even though I'm never rooting for Michigan. I'm rooting against Indiana in this scenario. Indiana in must-win games away from even at Assembly Hall, like they don't win them. So like,
how good is Michigan in must-win games?
And Michigan is so good. So, in the Big Ten tournament, especially, they're so good. So even though it's a new regime and everything, I'll take Michigan. I agree with you. The next game, assuming it's Nebraska versus Iowa, the two best teams in the Big Ten right now, honestly, playing wise. Not who I would take, but playing the best basketball, arguably, besides maybe in Illinois. So like, Nebraska is awesome, but like I got to take Iowa. I think Iowa might win the whole thing. So I'm going to take Iowa. I would love to have Nebraska is a team that's done the whole playing the first game and still win and win again. They've done it before. They did it my senior year, I think. So like crazier things have happened. Shout out Johnny Drewblood, actually. If you remember that, he was a walk-on that was playing a ton of minutes because they had like no guys because of injuries and stuff. And they ended up making it to the second round, and this walk-on was scoring like 8 points a game. And he just texted me today, which is hilarious. But anyway, I think we agree that Iowa's probably going to win that game just because they're on a mission right now.
I do. I think it's pretty chalk the second round in what I think is going to happen. Like I think the higher seed, hopefully Ohio State included, all takes care of business in that second round.
Seed.
Sorry, the
just March, man, lower seed.
Right, the lower seed, the closer to
zero. The closer to zero.
Closer to 0 seed. But I also I feel like Keegan Murray is going to take it up a whole nother notch in the Big Ten tournament in March, which is crazy to say that the leading scorer in the conference in the country is going to take it up a notch. But like, that's a guy who's like, hey, I want to be a top 3 pick. I don't want to be a top 8 pick. I want to be 3rd.
Yeah, I mean, every year, right, there's a guy that's like, last year was Dwayne. Like, every year there's a guy that just not necessarily puts a team on his back, but is like, hey, I'm here. I'm unbelievable. And I'm gonna be the major reason why my team goes far in March. And so I agree with you. It's going to be Keegan Murray. In that next game, Michigan State versus Maryland, right? I mean, like, talk about Maryland and Michigan State just played, and Michigan State won. So I'm going to take Michigan State just because of that. But Maryland's got a little recipe for success in March where even though they're not well coached really, they've got 2 awesome guards. So that should be really, really interesting. I'll take Michigan State. And then we don't need to talk about the Ohio State-Penn State game just because, like, we've talked about Ohio State so unbelievably much this year. Honestly, thank God, just on paper, we match up really well with Minnesota and Penn State. So, like, that's honestly kind of like a good draw for us, but like, who cares? Cause it's March. So it'll be really, 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 really interesting to see what happens then. It'll be really interesting.
All right. Let's fast forward to the Friday games, which would be the quarterfinals. At this point, it's like kind of pointless to talk about the matchups because we know it's not going to be what we're saying right now, but I'm going to ask you a couple potential questions, and then, we'll each pick a championship game. Ohio State, Purdue. Okay, the first time Ohio State played Purdue, it looked like Purdue was infinitely better than Ohio State. And then in the same game, it looked like Ohio State could play with any team in the Big Ten. Purdue has lost games. They aren't. I really don't think they're as good as everyone makes them seem, but they are very good.
We're not the scariest team in the Big Ten, that's for sure.
I do not have confidence, and I would love them to win, but I do not have confidence in pick. Like last year, we were like Ohio State to the championship. Ohio State to the championship. Like I do not have confidence.
We were right.
We were right. I do not have Ohio State. I do not have confidence in. Again, for all you listeners, like your dad, I'm not saying I don't want them to win. I'm saying I don't. And last time we did this, they beat Illinois, but I don't have confidence in them beating Purdue do you think there is a recipe or a way that they can?
I'll tell you what the recipe is. It's pretty straightforward. It's the exact thing that I talked about earlier. We will have played a game on the court. We will have hope. If we win that game, we'll have some momentum, some feel good going into Purdue. The only problem is Purdue's playing a freaking home game because it's in Indy. But throw that all away. We will have some momentum. We have momentum from the last time we played them, right? Like we were better for the last 10 minutes of that game. So put those together. I think that that's part of a recipe for success. I also think like it's freaking March, man. Like crazy things can happen in March. Like, yeah, we don't match up well with them, but now Joey Brunk has proven he can give us way more minutes and can guard Zach Edey, which he couldn't really guard Zach Edey last time, or at least play with Zach Edey. So I think as a whole, right, the Purdue matchup is part of Ohio State's road. As a whole, I kind of like our draw. Do I think that means we're going to win the Big Ten? No, we're not playing great basketball right now. Like that's an important factor in winning the Big Ten is who's hot. Do I think we can win the Big Ten? Sure. Do I think we're going to? No, but I like our draw. Like I said, we match up well with Minnesota and Penn State. Purdue, of the top 4 teams to play, Purdue is probably the team I'd like to play besides Rutgers the most right now. And then when you move on from there, would you rather play in Illinois or Wisconsin? It's not even close. I'd rather play Wisconsin. We beat the crap out of Wisconsin earlier this year. And they're great and they won the Big Ten, but like take Johnny Davis out of the game, they can't do anything.
And so if you're listening, people are going to say, well, what do you mean you would rather play Wisconsin? It's not Ohio State would rather play Wisconsin than Minnesota. It's just if you're choosing between Illinois or Wisconsin,
right,
you're picking Wisconsin.
Like, I just think big picture, we miss Nebraska. We miss Iowa. We miss Illinois. We miss Michigan. All these teams that are playing great basketball right now, they're on the other side of the bracket. We don't see them until the championship game. Like, that's why I kind of like Ohio State's draw. Granted, like, you got to play good basketball. You got to rebound the ball. You got to take care of the ball. But, like, Purdue doesn't scare me as much anymore. Now I'm saying this, they'll probably beat the shit out of us, but Purdue doesn't scare me as much as Iowa scares me. Wisconsin doesn't scare me as much as Illinois scares me.
Yeah.
So, like, I kind of like our draw, dude. We got to be – it's so funny because I think Purdue's a tougher game to win than Wisconsin, and we play Purdue first. Last year and how most tournaments are.
They are the better seed, so that does make sense.
Purdue's a better seed.
You're saying Purdue is a harder team than Wisconsin.
Yeah, I'd rather play Wisconsin than Purdue. Yeah, so, like, last year, right, like, we played Minnesota, who was, not that good. Then we played Purdue, who was a little bit better. Then we played Michigan, who was awesome. And then we played Illinois, who was incredible. Like, it went up that ladder. And this year, it's like, we're going to play a team that's solid that first game, right? They're good, not great. Then we're going to play arguably the best team in the Big Ten in the next game if we win, Purdue. Then we play a team that maybe doesn't have as much firepower, but was statistically awesome, right? They won the Big Ten. And then we play someone who's playing incredibly great basketball, whether it's in Iowa, whether it's a Rutgers, whether it's in Illinois, maybe it's Nebraska, then we play them in the championship. So it's, it'll be interesting. I like our path. That's all I'll say. I like our path as opposed to what it could have been.
So that's us discussing Ohio State's journey to the Big Ten championship. Let's say Ohio State loses to Purdue. Let's just play this game. Okay. I think the final 4 of this, if I was filling out a bracket, I would have Illinois, Iowa, Wisconsin, and Purdue, which is obviously 3 of the top 4 seeds, but Iowa instead of Rutgers. But then I don't have an answer to who, like, any of the top 5 teams winning the Big Ten, including Rutgers, really top 6, including Ohio State. Like, it just wouldn't be crazy. I've been saying, for like really a month now, like Iowa is going to show up in March.
First time ever.
But this is also the first time ever where they like haven't really been that good during the year. They're like reverse Iowa-ing.
They are reverse Iowa-ing for sure.
They're reverse Iowa-ing. So I think you're looking at Illinois, Iowa, Wisconsin, Purdue. I mean, what's the title game that people want? Like, what's a rematch? What's a good game people want? Let me tell you what I want. Okay. I want to see Illinois and Wisconsin fucking play in the championship. I'm so sick of the co-champ bullshit. I tell you this all the time. I've been saying it for years, and you've kind of disagreed with me on it. But on this year in particular, when they have the same record but one beat the other head to head,
Andrew,
who cares?
You
apparently me. But that's why I'm saying put them. Let that be the championship. They're two co-champs.
Let's
see them play.
I love that. I love that. The reason
why they probably won't play. They'll probably just agree that they both won the Big Ten championship.
Dude, it's a regular season championship. Like, let them both have a trophy, dude. Like, come on. Like,
how many trophies do they make? 14 just in case?
No, but they probably make 2 or 3 when it's coming down to see how many can possibly win. They probably have a ton of them sitting there just waiting to be engraved. They probably had a mass order back in the day.
You think the trophy factory's in Indy? Everything's in Indy.
No, I would think the trophy factory is probably somewhere overseas. But no, I won't do my Final Four and shit. Who cares? Like, who knows what's gonna happen? I'm so biased, it's ridiculous. I mean, the championship game that people would want to see, like, first of all, people want to see Iowa play Illinois because, like, that game was awesome, and Iowa and Illinois fans hate each other. Illinois has won 5 straight against Iowa, so people want to see that. Minnesota, Purdue and Wisconsin was an awesome game as well last week. So people would love to see that rematch. I think that would be awesome. I would love a Purdue-Illinois championship because I think
that game was awesome.
That game was awesome, and I think they've been the 2 best teams all year. So I think that would be awesome. And selfishly, like, it would be awesome if we got an Illinois Ohio State championship because we only played once and we beat them. They would be, I mean, I'm afraid that they would just murder us. But if they didn't, and we won the Big Ten championship beating Illinois, like, nothing would make me happier unless maybe we beat, like, Michigan or Indiana. But in terms of fan bases, like, nothing would make me happier than beating Illinois. So yeah, those are some of the things to look out for, I guess. I don't know. I work at a company that's owned by Berkshire Hathaway, and every year they announce, like, hey, Warren Buffett is going to give you $1 million if you get the first 2 weeks right in the March Madness tournament. And I sit there and, like, I watch college hoops for a living, basically, right? Like, that's all I do. And there's no shot that I'm going to pick any of these right. So why even try and pick?
That's why I think it's going to be Illinois, Wisconsin. I'm going to get close, 1 and 2.
Yeah, you'll get half of it, hopefully.
Yeah. Also, there's so many what ifs. Is Johnny Davis fully healthy? If not, they're not coming anywhere near the championship. Are Kyle and Zed and Michi going to play? If not, I don't know at all what's going to happen with Ohio State because Joey Brunk is a superhero now. So who knows? Like, I don't know who you want to have more minutes, Joey Brunkers. So, like, there's so many what ifs.
If Ohio State is healthy, they become one of the better teams in the Big Ten again. You know, like, it's been just a weird year for them, right? Like, they just have no consistency. So it'll be interesting. If Kyle's not playing in the Big Ten tournament, he'll be playing in March Madness because he'll have a ton of time to do so. I mean, I've hung out with the guy.
Did he play last year in March Madness?
No, because he got a concussion in the
second half. You got to get him in March Madness this year, man.
I know. The Purdue game last year where he had like 22 points in the first half, like 5 threes, had his career high, going nuts, and then he got a concussion on, like, the last play of the half, and then missed the rest of the year. Like, that, people don't talk about that enough. I mean, like, injuries are just so fluky, man. They screw everything up. So if Ohio State's healthy, just like if Wisconsin's healthy, just like if Jacob Grandiston on Illinois, he's a big part of Illinois too. He's not healthy. So, like, guys got to get healthy. Patrick McCaffrey didn't play for Iowa. He's a big part of their team too. Teams got to get healthy. So we shall see. That's why March is beautiful. And it's going to be a blast. It's the best time of the year.
I agree. My final question, it's going to be madness. My final question to you. Okay. I think Ohio State could get as high as maybe a 4 seed if they run the table and win the Big Ten tournament. And I think they could drop as low as a 7 seed. Like, I think a lot would have to, like, they would have to lose that first game, and the team slotted in 7 would have to make some noise. Like Iowa, I think, was behind them at 6, like in Lenardi's thing. So like if Iowa wins a few, you never know what happens. Like, but I think you're looking at and it's funny because they're a 6 seed in the Big Ten tournament, but like I think you're looking at a 6 seed in March Madness.
Yeah. What's your question?
My question, I guess my question was going to be, what seed do you think they'll be? But then you're right. I answered it.
I agree. If gun to my head, I'm going to say 6 seed. I think they win. Who knows? 5 seed would be fun, but we all know that 5 seeds get upset the most. 6 seed would be fine, but we all know that Illinois or Iowa State lost to Ohio State as a 6 seed.
Do you still think this team should make the Sweet 16? Because I am kind of off that bandwagon right now. If they're not fully healthy, like people are going to think Holtman should make it to the Final Four this year, which is a little like I'm actually not joking.
Yeah, people are so stupid. Yeah,
like I think this team should not under any circumstance lose in the first round of March Madness. I think we're in agreement with that.
Correct. That's an upset.
Right. But it's not always an upset, Like sometimes like if Rutgers, and like you said, Rutgers is going to end up being a 10 or 11 seed, like they might be favored as a 10 or 11 seed.
Yeah.
But like they should win. And then any other game that they win after the first round, I think is going to be like an exciting, gritty battle.
Yeah, I think it just depends. I mean, if we get matched up with like at a 3 seed, I'm thinking of like a Villanova.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah.
That's like, sorry, we didn't beat Villanova. Like, Jesus, everybody, But yeah, like I think what it boils down to is a Sweet 16 is still a successful season for the Ohio. That's like, if they win a game, it's like, hell yeah. But is it a successful season? I don't know. They stumbled so much down the stretch, blah, 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 whatever. We weren't healthy. Got to win 1 game. If you win 2, it's like, hell yes. So we shall see. I saw.
We're going to say they can win it all.
Of course. I saw a bracket that had us playing Memphis and then Villanova if we won. Like, come on. Why us? Why us? Memphis kind of stinks though. So, but
they're playing Rutgers ball right now. And Iowa ball, best basketball, and Nebraska ball.
No. Memphis is different. Memphis
just freaking pounded Houston.
Houston's not that good.
Yeah, Houston stinks.
And Memphis, every game, the teams, they go nuts when Memphis wins. They're like, oh, look, now they're playing at their level. And then when they lose, it's like, they're young. Like every game. So whatever. I don't want to play Memphis. I hate being a 6 seed because you're going to play a high major team first round. Like that's kind of scary. And then if you win, obviously you're playing one of the best teams in the country. So we shall see.
Yeah, I just like kind of want to like not even have them. I'm like just going to be so nervous during the March Madness games this year. Cause like Mizzou as like a 1 seed, like that's so rare, so. Shout out Kobe Brown, all SEC second team.
In the CBI, they'll be a 1 seed?
They're not making the CBI. They're making the Suck Invitational, the SI.
Dude, not nice.
We like Coach Martin. Shout out to Coach Martin.
The Suck Invitational.
Didn't Goodman say they should make a division with, what was it, like Boston College, Ohio State, or not Ohio State, Boston College, Mizzou, and Washington?
Georgetown.
Oh, Georgia, man. Mizzou beat them. They're bad.
Yeah, how about the SIT, the Suck Invitational Tournament? That's kind of fun.
Yeah. The sit.
Congrats to Georgia, Missouri, and Georgetown on being 3 of the 4 top seeds in the SIT.
The sit, as in you're out. You don't have any more games left. You're like sitting.
Sit, as in you're sitting on your couch watching the games.
Yeah. All right. Any last words?
No. Follow us on Twitter. We'll be doing some Twitter Spaces here before games, after big wins. So check us out there at Drive the Lane Pod. As the tournament goes on, we've talked about it. We'll be talking more and more about your favorite teams, whether you're an Indiana fan, an Illinois fan, a Michigan State fan, whatever the case may be. We're going to be talking. We're not going to stop abruptly like we did last year when Ohio State lost. Like, we're going to give you content through the end of the season. But other than that, I mean, it's pretty crazy that we're wrapping up year 3. And I think the one thing that we have to do to break the curse, Andrew, because Ohio State has not won They have not won a March Madness game since we started this podcast. I think we have to mention it now.
Yeah, I pointed it out to you the other day. Of course, little asterisk, the one tournament that was canceled and then a big upset last year, but they have not. They have not won a March Madness game since we started Drive the Lane, and they've been ranked as high as number 3 and number 1. They've been ranked as high as – weren't they number 1?
When?
Weren't they number 1 2 years ago?
Two.
All right, they've been ranked as high as number 2 since we started this podcast, and they have not won a March Madness game. That is wild. And Kyle Young has been on all of those teams.
Twice. Kyle Young has played 6 years since we started this podcast.
We're saving the greatest joke that you've ever come up with for the tournament. That's when we'll release the Kyle Young joke, and I'll remind you what it is after.
Okay. Did you know that me and Kyle are the same age?
Yeah. Did you know that me and Kyle are the same age?
Well, I just think it's a little bit funnier because I've been out of basketball for 3 years, and Kyle Young is the same age as me and is still playing.
Crazy.
Holy moly. Shout out to Kyle, man. He's a dad. That's wild.
Yeah. Dad and still playing college basketball, and not like a 19, 20-year-old dad. Like he's like probably above the average age of when people have their first kid.
Yeah, and I mean, while we're here, we might as well talk about the Players' Championship being in TPC Sawgrass.
Quick. This is the Big Ten episode.
Who's your pick?
I got a bunch of picks. As I was thinking.
One guy. Pick a guy.
I like Brooks Koepka.
This is the biggest purse of the entire season, Andrew. So you got to factor in, like, I'm in this fantasy golf league, right? You pick one guy and then you can't pick him again. And all the points are based on how much money they earn. And because this is the biggest purse, I think I'm going to use a big gun. And I think I'm going to use John Rahm this week. So we'll see. I've got a couple guys. Brooks, I'm going to wager on for sure. But I'm going to pick a top guy this week. Maybe Justin Thomas.
I mean, I put the most amount of money I took on Rory. So I'm doing something similar. But like,
he's not a top guy.
Odds-wise, he's like top 7.
Right. Yeah, I'm just thinking in the world, top guys.
Yeah.
So, whatever.
Buckle up, drive the lane.
Go Buckeyes.